Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some almond cookies with pistachios and more. So an almond cookie with some pistachios on the top, but also I'm going to put some other things on top of some more of them. So you can actually make these little cookies. They're like little macaroons, not macarons, macaroons. Almond macaroons, just with little bits of pistachio on, and then you can put. I'm going to put some hazelnuts on and a glace cherry on some. You could make a hole in a dip in the middle and put some jam in, things like that. Sprinkle some coconut over the top. Pipe it onto some coconut and sprinkle coconut over the top as well. These are based on an Italian pignoli recipe, which is a recipe where the same cookie dough, the almond dough, is rolled in pine nuts and then baked. But pine nuts are very, very, very expensive, and I think they're overrated for what they are, basically. And I can see no justifiable reason for spending £16 or £17 on pine nuts just to make a few biscuits. So I decided I would do these and then just cover the top with a variety of different things, like, as I said, pistachios and hazelnuts. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for the recipe I need 500 grams of almond paste. Now it's similar to marzipan, but it's not marzipan at all. Marzipan is much, much sweeter, and you don't really want that extra sweetness because we've got more sugar to go into it. So this is almond paste, and I'm going to show you with these ingredients how to make that almond paste if you don't want to buy it. I made this a couple of days ago and I've left it chilling in the fridge, so it's developed even more flavour. So that's 500 grams. I have 80 grams, which is 6 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of caster sugar, 20 grams, which is about 3 tablespoons of icing sugar, 10 grams, which is 2 teaspoons probably, or half a tablespoon probably, of honey, and I have the white from 2 medium eggs, and I may not need all of that white. And then as I mentioned, I have some pistachios here. How many you use is up to you. Some hazelnuts which has been roasted and chopped, and some glace cherries, and they're going to go on the top. But the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to make the almond paste, and I'm going to make it again because I can then put that in the freezer and keep it for 3 months and use it for something else whenever I want to. And so for the almond paste I have 250 grams, which is 2.5 cups of ground almonds, 250 grams, which is 1.25 cups of caster sugar, the zest from 1 lemon, 2.5 millilitres, half a teaspoon of almond extract, and I have 1/4 cup, 60 millilitres of water. That's 4 tablespoons. But I may not need all of that. I may need it all, but I may not need all of it. And so what I'm going to do to start off with is to put my ground almonds and my caster sugar into the bowl of my immersion blender processor, and then I'm going to blitz those for a minute or so just to break them down a little bit more than they already are. The finer the better, basically. And I should say, if you wanted to use icing sugar instead of caster sugar, you can. The same weight, but it would be a different amount in cups. So I'll just process this for a short while. So I processed that for about a minute or so, basically, and I'm going to need this bowl again in a minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip that mixture out into a bowl, And then I'm going to add in my lemon zest. I'm going to stir that through just to get that broken up and mixed through a little bit. And you could leave the lemon zest out if you wanted to. I always like a little hint of lemon, so I'm happy to use it. And then I'm going to put in my almond extract and about half of my water. And I'm going to start to stir that around. And I want it to begin clumping together. It's not like a wheat or a flour-based dough, wheat flour dough, because it doesn't have the gluten structure in it. But I want this just moist enough so that I can squeeze it and it holds together like that one that I showed you earlier did. I'm going to put about another tablespoon of water in. And I'm just going to squeeze that and see how that comes together. And that's coming together quite nicely. So I'm going to tip that out basically onto onto some plastic wrap. And I'm actually using the plastic wrap that my previously made almond paste was in, just so I can reuse it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze that into a dough, and I can see that it's wetter in some places than others, but I will work that so that it all comes together and is combined. And that's actually all there is to it. And I'm going to form that into a block and wrap that up. And then I'm going to chill that for a day so that the moisture seeps through into the remainder of the almonds. And then I'm going to put it in the freezer and freeze it until I need it again. So we'll go on now and use the block which I already made to make our almond cookies. So as I start to make the almond cookies, I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I've lined a couple of baking trays with some parchment paper. So I'm going to take my almond paste and I'm going to break it up into little chunks like that. And I should say the recipe that I've made makes just a little bit more than 500 grams, but I think that would be fine. You can use that amount, or you can cut a bit off if you want to. and I'm going to pour in my caster sugar and my icing sugar. Shake those around, and then I'm going to pulse this until I've broken the clumps up into much smaller pieces. And that's good like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in my little bit of honey and then some of the egg white. Now I've beaten my egg white so that it makes it easier to control the level at which I pour it in. And that honey isn't there really for sweetness, it's there to help everything stick together a little bit. So I'm going to pour in some of the egg white, and I'm going to process that, and I want to process it, adding more egg white until I have a nice thick mixture, but which is of a pipeable consistency. I'll add a little drop more egg white. And some more. So that's come together quite nicely, and I'm going to, I think I'll put that into a bowl and just give it a good stir around. In fact, I think to make it easier, I will just spoon it into fairly equal amounts. And as you can see, I haven't used all of my egg white, and I don't think I need to use all of it. So I've taken about 30 grams and I've just spooned that onto my baking parchment. I'll do the same with the remaining dough. You want to get them about the same size if you can, but it doesn't matter that much, obviously. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet a finger and I'm going to shape them into rounds, basically, or round around the base if I can, but domed. And then with them domed like that, I'm going to take some pistachios and I'm going to put them on the top. Just like that. and you can do as many or as few as you want. And then I'm going to take some hazelnuts and pop those on as well. So I've used all of my dough now, and I've put half a glacé cherry on the top of some of them because cherries go very, very well with the almond flavour. And I've used some more pistachios, and I'm going to put those into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for 10 to 15 minutes. I'll check them at 9 or 10 minutes, and as they begin to colour just around the edge, that should mean that they're cooked through. They'll be nice and chewy on the inside. But what I'll do is I'll take them out of the oven, and I'm going to leave them on the trays until they have cooled completely. If I try to pick them up before they've cooled completely, they will simply break apart and stick on the tray. So I'll leave them to cool completely on the baking tray, and then I'll carefully transfer them off the parchment paper onto a wire rack, and I'll come back and show you the results. I baked the almond cookies with pistachios for 15 minutes. I took them out of the oven, but I left them on the baking trays until they were completely cool. You could actually slide the parchment paper off onto the counter if you wanted to and let them cool on the counter, but I left them on the baking tray. And then once they were completely cooled, I carefully peeled the parchment paper off the cookies because they will pull away. They're very soft inside. So they baked up quite nicely, as you can see. Here's the cherry ones, the pistachios and the hazelnuts, and as I said, they're soft on the inside like a macaroon or an amaretti biscuit, I think. Amaretto biscuit, amaretti, something like that. So I'll have a taste of the one that I've already been eating. Has the lovely sweetness to it and the flavour of almond, which is imparted more by the almond extract as well. A wonderful texture, chewy texture, with a slight crunch on the outside, and then of course the pistachio as well, which adds additional crunch and flavour. So these are infinitely variable. You can use whatever you want to put on the top and such like. You could actually just leave them plain if you wanted to. But that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.